Hi guys, this is Mark, your instructor here. In this video, we will be building a playground that will be a page, more like a template of a page that will be used in many other lectures and some exercises in this course. It will be very simple structurally. It will consist of just two areas. One will be the workspace, and the workspace will be used for you to drag and drop components to create the UIs and just build various things. And of course, I will do that as well, and you will follow along. And the other area will be for logging information. Why I came up with the idea to do it this way is because whenever you build a program, doesn't matter whether it's UI or the backend, you always need to have some feedback from the program whether of what it did, and just to see if it's doing the right thing. Of course, using a debugger in a web application is not very straightforward because it's running in the browser, and yeah, there are ways to do it, but we do not write code here. We're doing it without any code. It's going to be codeless. So debugging a codeless application introduces some technical challenges as to how do you debug a program that you built without any code. And the most obvious way to do it, and perhaps the simplest way to do it, is by producing some log information. But whenever you produce log information, there are different ways to do it. One way is to send log messages to the server through the APIs, and you can see those messages on the server. Android has its own way to do logging. Different way to do it in iOS. If you're building a web application, you could use a browser console to send log messages there. But when it comes to browser console, there are different ways to get to the browser console. It's one way in Chrome, another way in Safari and Firefox. So I thought, how about just creating this simple approach that works universally the same, regardless of the browser, whether you run it on a tablet or on a mobile device. It's going to be exactly the same. Plus, as we build this playground, you will learn a thing or two about just UI Builder and how to utilize various facilities that are built into UI Builder. So I think it's going to be very useful exercise on its own just to build a playground. Plus, what we will produce here will be used in many other lectures in this very course. So follow along, and we'll just jump right into UI Builder. Now we are in the UI Builder section of Backendless Console. If you just created a brand new app, you will see exactly what I'm seeing here on the screen. And let's start building the playground page. We will create a new page rather than using the one that is created, because I would like to show you how to create new pages, and this will become a very useful part of understanding of how UI Builder works. In here, you move the mouse over this section where it says editing page and the name of the current page. This little pop-up appears, and in the pages section, click the new page button. This pop-up shows up, and in here, I will type in playground page template. The reason I'm calling it a template here, and it doesn't really become a template as one of these guys down below, but in the context of a page for this course, it will be a template because additional pages later on for other lectures and examples will be created as a copy of this template. Therefore, calling it template is appropriate. So playground page template is the name. We will create it as a template based on the landing page. Click create. A new one is created. So for the title, let's change it to Playground or UI Builder Playground. That sounds good. Now select this main area, which is the workspace. And in here, in the direction, change it left to right. And you will see why I just did this. And the next step is to switch to the toolbox and drag block 1. And then drag another block 2 right here. So there are two blocks. For this one, for the first block, make sure it is selected. And then in the properties, make sure to find flex grow and put 1 in here. And then what happens is this block becomes the main one. It takes as much space as possible. This one right here, which is narrow, what you will need to do is find the dimension. And for the width, let's put 300 pixels. That's going to be sufficient. So what we have now is we have this main area. This is where we will be adding components. This is where we will be playing with UIs and adding logic. And this one will contain our log messages. So they are not sticking to each other. Select this block right here and then add a margin on the right of 10 pixels. And let's add some borders just so they stand out from each other. So select this big block and then scroll down to the decorations section. Let's add a border of 1 pixel. The style is solid. And then the border, I like to put kind of light gray. And we will do the same thing on this block that will contain the log messages. Once again, scroll down, border 1 pixel, border style solid, and kind of this light gray color for the border. Okay, that's good. You can, at any point of time, if you want to see what it looks like, just click on the desktop preview. It opens up in a page, and as you can see, now we have these 2 sections. Looks pretty good so far. So for this log area, what we will need to do, first of all, you see that the direction by default is top to bottom. This is exactly what we want for the log area. Drag text component, and then in here it will say log messages. We can change the font to be a little bit smaller because right now it is 16 pixels, so we'll just change it to 12. And the next element that we will drag down into this section, it will be paragraph. So this paragraph will contain all the log messages that will be accumulated by having our program running. So for this paragraph, what we can do is, just so it doesn't say paragraph, click on this icon to edit the content. Just remove it right there, click apply. So this way it is empty by default. Now, at this point, all the structural components are there. What you might want to do is select this big block and change the ID and type in main work area. So that's going to be the ID. And then for this block, we can say log messages block. It is not that important to have those IDs, but it's a good practice just to name your components and give them the names that are meaningful so you know exactly where things are. Especially when you go to the component tree, you can see how the structure of your page is organized. So now at this point, what we want to do is to add all the logic where we can channel all the log messages into this area right here. Number 1, select this paragraph and go into the events. And for the content logic, let's use data binding and bind it to the property log. And this property will be sitting in page area because that's going to be the first data container that this paragraph is sitting in. And in here, whenever something happens, we need to be able to send those log messages from our application into this paragraph. The way it will work is let's just drag a button as a test into the main work area, and here's our button. And let's say whenever this button is pressed, we want to send messages to the log area. Go into the events for this button, and on click event, we need to add the logic that will happen whenever the button is clicked, and that logic will be, let's say, to send log messages to the log area. The way sending log messages will work, and right now we'll just create something very simple, but we will refactor it as we go, is what we will need to do is to put log message into the log variable in page data. Remember, we set up the data binding for our paragraph, and in here, if we go to object and we use set property in, it will be setting the property in page data. The property name will be log. And what we will need to do is to take any existing log and add new log message. This will be implemented by getting property log from page data and then adding some additional text message. And for now, we'll hard code this text message to combine the full string. In category text, select create text with. And then in here, we can just add that additional message. That additional message, in order to add it in there, go into text and make sure to select this raw text and I will tell you why it needs to be raw text. And here, let's say this is a test log message \n, and this \n will force carriage return, meaning that the text will roll to the next line. If we didn't use raw text and instead used plain text right here, then the /n will be escaped and you will actually see text /n. But when you use raw text, it will actually go to the next line. So this is the basic logic that we use just to see how that page works. And let's go into the preview. And then when we click the button, as you can see, it is working quite well. So as I'm tapping this button, there are additional log messages that show up. So this validates that the logging actually works. And to make it useful across the board for other parts of the application, we don't want to repeat this logic every time in our applications. Instead, we'll use a feature in UI Builder, Codeless Logic, that is called functions. If you click on this, in here there will be all your functions. What are functions? Functions are reusable parts of logic that you can use from anywhere inside of in the logic of your application. Let's create a new function and call that function log. So UI Builder Codeless creates this function log. If you want to add additional arguments to this function, just click on this gear icon and you can add an argument and then give it a name to that argument. And that argument name in our case is going to be log message. Also here you can control whether this function returns a value or not. In our case, we don't care about the return value. All we want to do is to add a log message to the page data, which means that we actually need another argument, which will be page data. And in this function, we will repeat exactly the same thing that we had in our logic, which means that if we go to handlers and switch to this, select this block and do Command-C or Control-C, depending on the operating system you're in, just to copy it to the clipboard, go back to your function and do Control-V or Command-V, depending on the operating system. Put it in there, and instead of page data that was there, replace it with the argument page data. Same thing right here, just replace it with the actual argument. And in raw text, now we have the actual log message. What we will need to do is add another parameter to the create text with, put the log message as the second argument, and then raw text with just /n. So in this case, we take the existing value that is sitting already in page data, we add the log message, and then we add /n. Let's put this function to use. Go back to handler, click modify logic, and in here we can remove what we have in the click event completely. And notice that in the menu bar on the left hand side under custom functions, we now have our own function called log. And in here we can specify what page data is and specify our message. And then in this case, the message could be just plain text. This is a test of custom function. So let's see how page works now. So as you can see now, I'm tapping the button and we get the test of custom function. So our logging function works exactly as we would want to, which means now we can get rid of this click event completely. We can go back to the user interface, get rid of this button completely. And now we have this page that has the logic for logging messages in this log area. And anytime we create a new copy of this page, and you will see in subsequent lectures how to do this, we will have this log function that we can start using in our codeless logic in order to channel messages into the log messages area. It's pretty simple, and now try to do exactly the same thing, either just by following the video and then try to do the same thing without following the video so you can reproduce exactly the same functionality. I hope you found this useful. Thank you for watching this video and listening to this lecture. And as always, happy codeless coding.